You can wait until the color dries, or you can paint into it while it's wet. But the next operation is to add the little bluish shadows in the gullies along the hillside. As you develop these shadows, it becomes almost an abstract pattern. It takes quite a bit of study. I had a friend that bought an abstract painting one time to cover a hole in his wall. After he looked at it a while, he decided he liked the hole in the wall better and took it down. You can make this job a little simpler by actually painting in less shadows than you see in the mountains. In other words, make a few less gullies and canyons. It looks pretty simple here, but it takes a little work and time to get the thing worked out so that it actually looks right. I'm putting a little bit of highlight on some of the ridges between the gullies, but you must be careful not to make them too light. All of your shades, dark and light, have to be pretty subtle because the mountain is a long ways away from you. Try to keep the pattern fairly simple and don't overwork it. After all, it's your foreground objects that are going to be your center of interest in most cases. When the foreground trees are roughed in, you get a better impression of the overall effect. Now I'm going to show you how to do the same type of mountain in watercolor. I'm painting down to some trees that are sticking up in front of the mountain with my base color, so I have to use the texture of the paper to keep the tree-like texture along the top. Another alternative would be to use masking along the top of the trees. Here I've blended in the lighter shades as I work down, and this is a slightly different mountain than the one we did in oil, but it gives the same basic effect to begin with. Then the shadows are painted in a slightly darker shade of blue. Usually I just add Payne's gray to the blue, and you can build the shapes by twisting and turning the flat-ended brush, and it works out quite handily. When you paint down to the trees, there again you have to use the texture as you work away from the edge of the trees. You need to think a little bit about the actual contour of the mountains as you place these little stripes and lines and marks in that suggest the shadows of the gullies. So they should run in the right direction to conform to the shape of the mountain. Here again I paint a little of my color up on the side of the palette to check the value and color. And of course I constantly recheck my values as I go along with my value scale. You want to make sure each value is right before you start painting over it with another color. If it's too dark, you can wash over it and pick up some of the color to lighten it. Or if it's too light, you can add another wash. Now I'm adding some darker areas along the top of the mountains that suggest little groves of trees along the top. And if they're close enough, why, you would use the zigzag motion of the brush to show the tops of the trees. But if they're a long ways away, they may just show as a dark streak along the top of the mountain.